This is Launching Your Daughter podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Now, here is today's episode. Episode 37. I'm really excited about today's episode and speaking with Dara. She was just a wealth of information regarding how parents can be supportive of their teen daughters and their sons if they're transgender or non-binary, and you'll find out more about that in the episode. So I hope you find it as informative and helpful as I did. So here's the show. Welcome, everybody. My guest today is Dara Hoffman-Fox. And Dara is a licensed professional counselor, gender therapist, speaker, and author of You and Your Gender Identity. Her private practice is located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Dara works with transgender, gender variant, and gender questioning individuals. And I am so excited to have you on the podcast today because I know this is a big topic that comes through my practice ever so often, not huge, but ever so often, but there's so many questions that go on with the girls that I work with, the parents that I work with, and I look forward to you sharing your wealth of information with my audience today. So thank you for being here, Dara.
And thank you so much for having me, Nicole.
So I would love it if you could tell the parents and the listeners out there a little more about who you are and what your practice is.
I'd be glad to. So I am a licensed professional counselor, and I practice in Colorado, as you mentioned, and I have used the phrase gender therapist to also indicate what my area of specialty is. So a lot of people wonder sometimes if gender therapist is something that you have to get, extra training for or a certification. So that's one of those phrases where you pretty much call yourself that when you feel ready to be able to call yourself that. It indicates that you do have a specialization in working with those who are, like you said, transgender and gender variant and questioning their gender. So for me, it was really important to not call myself a gender therapist until I felt that I really had that sort of experience under my belt. And honestly, when I had first started counseling, I didn't know this was the path I was going to go down. So it's not something I shot for as a goal. What happened was I ended up being interviewed for a local newspaper for a story that ended up going international. And this was back in 2014. And I was like, I think I can call myself a gender therapist now because the article mentioned me as an expert. And so, and honestly, it was, and it's nice. It's like I needed that extra outside affirmation. So once that happened, that's the time frame where I wanted to take my knowledge and my experience outside of my office as much as I could. That's when I created a blog and a YouTube channel and a Facebook page. And so from there, it's just only increased in terms of my abilities to be able to reach as many people as possible. But at the crux of it are my clients. And in general, I work with adults, meaning 18 and over. I have worked with teens as well. And especially nowadays, there are a lot more teens and adolescents and even children who are coming forward with a need to talk to a gender therapist.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about during this teen years. I know you work mostly, you said, with adults 18 and above, but how can parents or even family members or friends be supportive of teenagers or young adults who are unsure of their identity, their gender identity, their sexuality, or maybe they have friends that are in the LGBT community? How can they help support them as they go through this and kind of figure this out for themselves? What are ways for them to offer support or show their support?
I think one thing that's been really useful in working with adults is that they are able to tell me, first of all, what they wish had happened for them when they were kids and teenagers. So it's kind of like I'm seeing the older version of them, and they hear about how nowadays a lot of parents are supportive of their kids through this process, and they're a combination of grateful and jealous, knowing, they're so lucky they get to start this younger and avoid so much of the pain and confusion that can come from this. And also through the work that I am doing, like I said, through YouTube, I get to hear from a lot of teenagers. Every month I'm surprised more and more the demographic increases of even 12-year-olds who are emailing me and saying, oh, how do I talk to my parents about this? So this is becoming really important nowadays because the visibility is increasing. So I think one of the biggest concerns that I hear parents say is they're not sure, like let's say they're very well intentioned and they're like, gosh, I think my kid or my teen is really struggling with this. And they're like, so does that mean they're transgender? And what do we do? The first thing you can do is you can back up a bit and be able to figure out what exactly is going on here. Because for some kids, it could be that they're transgender, meaning probably should give a quick definition for that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, let's say that would be so basically we are all assigned a gender at birth, and it's based on the appearance of our genitals. And so what it means is that this child or this teen does not feel aligned with that assigned gender of birth. There's a discomfort, sometimes, and that discomfort can vary between being mildly uncomfortable to being painfully uncomfortable. So being able to figure out, first of all, on that spectrum, how much discomfort is this child experiencing? For some kids, it could be where they are wanting to be able to express, let's say we're talking about a boy. There's this boy and the boy wants to express femininity and feminine energy and femaleness. And so if that child is raised in an environment where they're encouraged to do so and it's fine, that would be that. And that kid can, not to say that society wouldn't have its issues with it.
Correct.
But,
yes.
But in general, the kid could, do that. If the kid is told from pretty young, like, oh no, boys don't do that, boys aren't supposed to like that, then they're already going to start to develop that discomfort. And then that's where it can get really confusing because they might not know, okay, well, maybe I'm really a girl. Or it could be that they just need to be able to express femininity. Mm-hmm. And so I use boys as an example because nowadays it's still a lot harder for boys to be able to do that. For girls to express any sort of masculinity, I mean, that's been fairly common for a long time. Girls wearing pants, compared to a boy wanting to wear a skirt, it's still night and day when it comes to any resistance they might run against. Mm-hmm. And so when you hear, as a parent, a child and a teen saying very specifically things like, especially as a kid, when they say things like, how come I have to stand in line with the boys? I'm a girl, and they're really they're just almost factual about it. And they're like, why do I have, this, and why do I have to do this, and why do I have to do that? Because I'm a girl. And then that's where the level of discomfort, you might be able to tell, on that scale of 1 to 10, this is sounding more intense than just someone wanting to express femininity or femaleness. And so that's where it becomes important just to kind of pay attention to your kid, hear what they have to say. And if it really starts to become distressing, just look for that distress in the kid. And how often is it coming up? How intense is it? Because at that point, then the best thing to do is be able to seek out a gender therapist who does work with children, so you can begin that conversation and be able to see, are these the signs? Are these what we need to look for? And that way you don't have to go through that process alone.
I love that it's twofold here. One, you've got parents that you're talking about, again, the well-intentioned parents who are really trying to tune into their child and figure out how to best support them because they love them, they care about them. So these are ways to, hey, really sit down and have conversations and really make your child feel seen and heard about where they are and what they're going through. And then it's like, hey, if the family is still okay, they're really at such a level of discomfort and we don't know how to go further with this, definitely seeking out gender therapist, getting some support groups within your local community to help move that process on, or to continue that dialogue and continue that process. Yeah, love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it.
you were talking about too, you get a lot of reflection back for now, whether it's teenagers and or adults, about what it is they wish they would have had as they were growing up, or ways that they would have felt more supported. What are some of the other reflections that you are hearing back that would maybe help our parents that are listening now, how they can also really help support their daughters within this process as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, being able to just express your support for your child as they're expressing this, and having to create a safe space for them to be able to talk, normalizing it as much as possible, to let them know, from the start, this doesn't mean you're, one of the words that comes up the most is, there's something wrong with me, I'm a freak. And especially, I know we were talking about boys before, but for girls, one of the things that I'm seeing come up a lot is, we haven't talked yet about what it means to be non-binary. Mm-hmm. So that means that you don't identify with the gender of female or male. And a lot of girls who are coming through my offices, they are feeling uncomfortable with, it's not necessarily with female stereotypes. There's a lot of women say, oh, I don't like being stereotyped in this way as a woman or female, or I don't like how this means I'm going to be discriminated against. It's like that real sense of like, like when I'm told I need to use the female restroom, or maybe certain things about their body, they're like, God, this just doesn't feel right to me, maybe, and then they kind of rush ahead. Maybe I'm a boy, maybe I'm male. And then knowing that there's this option of non-binary is really important. Like I said, I've seen as a pattern for those who are assigned female at birth, so your daughters, if they are expressing a discomfort with being a girl, but it might not mean that they necessarily then are a boy. They might be non-binary, and being able to explore what does non-binary mean, and help your daughter look online to find safe videos and blogs to read about people who are non-binary if they start expressing this sort of confusion or desire to learn about that. So for some of them, it might turn out that they are indeed male, and that would be the direction to go in. But definitely keep in mind that that's an option as well. And so a lot of my older clients, sometimes that's what they would express, is that they would say, I wish when I was younger, I knew, let alone their parents, but even themselves, I wish I knew there was something called, non-binary, that does describe my experience. So now, present day, there's so much information now out there, and there's words being put to feelings. So that information is there to be able to seek out, to help your child find, what is that I'm feeling? And is there a word to be able to describe this for myself?
Oh, and I love that, because I guess in my practice, that non-binary has not been kind of a topic of conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that there's more and more information, and being able to support parents in getting information, so they have lack of, if they're confused, like, I don't know what to do, how do I talk about this? There's information for them, but also, for the daughters out there, for the girls out there, it's like, hey, there are ways to be able to communicate about this. And I love it because, there's more permission out there, right? To be able to do this and to be supported by wherever you are in your path. So I love it. Oh, good stuff. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good. I want to kind of switch gears just a touch. And I know there are parents out there, again, as you and I were talking, well-intentioned, but they are just totally confused or at a loss about what to do. What are some, I guess for you, what have you heard, whether it's been adults or maybe some parents reflecting to you, what are some of their fears about how they can either support or how they go about just kind of understanding where their child, teen, young adult, where they're at? What are some of the fears that you sometimes hear about?
Well, first of all, just to normalize, that feeling that the parents have, it's totally understandable. I mean, this is still, being transgender or non-binary, it's not new in and of itself, but the dialogue that's being had about it is new. And so you've got a lot of parents of transgender kids, or who have, if they're not sure what's going on with their kids, who are, it's sort of like it's the beginning of this phase of moving into this. Later we'll look back and say, oh, well, all those brave parents who were supporting their transgender kids. Because I'll be honest, it's not easy. And it really depends on, of course, geographically, where do you live? What kind of support do you have from the school, from your family? But, again, I'll be honest, I do see that there are parents who are having a hard time. There's a lot of transgender kids who have become and teens who are very visible because they themselves are wanting to let other kids and teenagers know, hey, this is okay. This is normal to feel this way. I support you. And I've heard from parents that this, it's challenging. You'll look at comments on stories and you'll just read these awful comments that people are saying that the parents are not they're jumping the gun or they're making decisions that are bad for their kids. So I do want to say that it's understandable that this can be a really scary thing to think about, not only for you to go through, but for your kid to go through as well. And so finding support is so important. Like you said, connecting with a therapist in your area who knows if you have local groups and resources, but also online. And again, I think this is continuing more and more to increase. Being able to connect with other parents who are going through this is becoming more common because they recognize this is tough. We need to band together and do this and figure out how do we handle these comments from people who say, you're abusing your child by doing this. And that's really hard to hear because what you're actually doing as a parent by listening to your kid when they talk about this is you are showing the hugest amount of compassion and love and concern.
Totally.
It's so hard when I hear people say there's still so much education that needs to be shared.
Yes. Yeah, there definitely is. Because you've hit it. I was smiling. I was like, that's just it. When the negative comments or the unknowing comments, not having all the information, comes in. And as a parent, when you're doing the best that you can with the information you have, and you really are trying to be there for your child, and as you said, really understand them. To hear that back, it's like then there's more shaming that can come up. And it's like, no, you're doing exactly what you need to do. Keep taking that step forward. And it is so important to have a support system, whether it's in your local community, which I know for some smaller communities that can be very challenging. The online communities can be very helpful as well.
That's right. And it is, like you said, it is very challenging to be able to, what happens is, on your level as a parent, if your child ends up going through this and you find ways to help them, you see them growing happier, more comfortable, more confident. And you have the proof right before you, like, I'm doing the right thing. My child is thriving now. My child is happier and healthier. And yet then you're being told by strangers, how could you be, doing this to your kid? And so having to develop kind of a thick skin, having to set boundaries, and that you should try to reduce the amount of exposure you have to that sort of uninformed commentary.
Yeah. Beautiful reminder for all of our parent listeners out there. Yeah. Well, I would love it if you could also talk a little more about your book, because I think this would be a great resource as well. So tell a little more about the book. And I know you've written it and you've got it going through now a second editing, if my understanding is correct, and it's getting published more and more and more, which is so exciting. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Well, last summer, so that would have been 2016, I self-published You and Your Gender Identity, A Guide to Discovery. And this, again, it was written in mind. I would say that this would be appropriate for adults who are going through this experience, but also young adults, for those who are teens who are able to grasp the sort of young adult level of literature and reading. It also is, I've heard, I didn't realize this would happen, but I think it's great that a lot of people who aren't struggling with their gender identity but want to understand it more totally are able to get this and use it as a resource. So, I guess I should have known that was going to happen, but I just was so focused on writing the book for the audience who needed it. But tons of people are buying it who are able to use it as a resource just to understand better. And so Basically, the book is filled with exercises that a person can go through to be able to get closer to the truth about their gender identity. And I do start the book off with the question of, ask yourself, do you feel any discomfort around your gender, assigned gender at birth? And if somebody answers maybe or yes, then I say, go ahead and start reading the book. See if there's information in here that can help you. So for some people, it could end up being where they are actually comfortable with their assigned gender at birth. They're just not comfortable with the stereotypes or things like that. And that could be their conclusion. And for others, they might realize that their discomfort is again in that range where they're like, maybe this is like I'm at a 5 where I feel like I'm non-binary, or maybe this is like, ooh, this is a 10 and I need to seriously address what's going on. And so I take the book through, so I use the template of the hero's journey because I'm a big fan of Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, and using that basics, because I think almost anybody can relate to it because it's about a story and everybody knows at least some stories, whether it's movies or TV or books, and you are the main character in your story. And so I try to use that approach as a way to be able to help people take this on as a journey, as an adventure, so that they can make it as fun as it can be, as something which that can be very scary, but to be able to also see it as something really important that you need to dig deep down and discover about yourself.
Well, and I love that because yes, it can be both scary and, exciting, but it's so important. The more we understand ourselves, right, the more we can stay authentic in the world, even when the world sometimes doesn't want us necessarily to be a certain way or to anything. So the more you know you, then you're more informed as you go through life, and it's being able to stay stronger within yourself. So I love that. And I think stories, we all have stories, right? So I love how you've based that off of that. Just kind of like, hey, this is a story about you, and let's do some discovering. That's lovely.
Well, just what you said, that is probably has become my motto in life for myself, and what I want to teach everybody to do is discover your authentic self. And I know that that's phrases used so often and it almost has lost some of its impact, but it really is true nowadays. From what I'm seeing in my practice, I don't know if you've seen this too, but it seems like people are getting younger and younger as they start realizing like, the way I was taught to be or was told I should be, that might not really be me. Like we have teenagers who are recognizing this.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful because that means if they can figure out, the younger you are when you can figure that out, then you don't go through a midlife crisis.
Right.
You have your midlife crisis when you're, I sometimes I joke with my younger clients. I'm like, this is like a midlife crisis, but instead you're having it now.
Right.
Because which is great because you haven't made big decisions in your life that you then have to say, oh no, what have I done? I've made these decisions from a place that really isn't me. And so that's something else I've learned from my adult clients, especially those who are transgender, is that they might have gotten married and had kids and be in a certain career. And then they're just like, wow, I've been repressing this about myself. And I've been making decisions from a place of hiding parts of me. And that it's harder to be able to make those changes the more and more you have added onto that list of things that you've decided. So that, yes, you're right. Being able to discover as early as possible, even though it's scary and it can be hard and it can be messy, the earlier you can do that, the better.
Absolutely. And you said that so beautifully. You're spot on. I have so many of my teen girls that I'm working with. There really is an awakening of waking up to saying, hey, I'm kind of starting to challenge some of the things that I'm being told or how I need to be. And it is lovely to watch that because you're absolutely right. As we get older, it gets a little more ingrained that we hide those parts. And using kind of the Jung's work, right, as Carl Jung is the shadow piece of it. And so it's trying to, shine some light on that and bring that out into the open. So yeah, I love it that the older clients that you have, the adult clients, that they're recognizing it and again, trying to work to show all their different parts and to integrate all of that. And then for our younger kids out here, for our teenagers, being able to say, hey, it's truly okay to really discover who you are and then share that with your support system that you have, that it's all good, because you'll have a happier, healthier life as you continue to grow.
That reminds me, I have a daughter. She'll actually turn 16 tomorrow, and I have a stepdaughter who will be 16 in June. And being able, it's just so cool to see how different. Again, it's like cool, and I'm also jealous how different it is to see them being able to go through life right now. Like, I mean, when it comes, even, if either one of them fit under the LGBTQ umbrella, they knew from probably age 3, like, if this is who you are, it's okay. Yeah. And so, like, my daughter, even at one point when she was like 10, like, she came out to me as straight. She's like, Mom, I have to tell you something. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm straight. Cause I'm myself am gay. And so it was and then at one point she was like, Mom, I was thinking, I wonder if I'm a boy, because I liked Star Wars, and this was when she was much younger, and this and that. And, and then I realized, no, I'm a girl. And so I was like, wow, those are like deep questions that usually, for those of us who are older, we didn't even know to ask ourselves those questions, but 10 and be like, you know what, I think I'm good. I figured this out for myself. It's really neat. And I think that's, so I can't wait to see what the next generation will be like, with these teen girls, being so much more self-aware and seeing then what that's going to result in as adults.
Absolutely. It is exciting. Definitely exciting. And that's so cool about your daughter too, or both of them, it's just like that, the self-awareness and being able to reflect that back, because they do have a safe place to be able to share those questions and to talk about. So that's part of this, is, again, just like, let them question, hear them, reflect, and acknowledge that they are really learning more about themselves. So that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when it comes to something like gender, again, it's not something that maybe is quite as common at this point that has been brought up, but it's happening more. And so it's okay as a parent to know that you might not, you might feel a little lost at first and unsure what to do, but it's really, being able to take it a step at a time and, doing your research and finding help, whether through therapists and through support from other people who have been through it. It's totally possible to be able to figure this out. So that way you can help your kid find their answer for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, Dara, is there any other books or pieces of advice? I mean, you've given such a wealth of information today on this episode. Are there any other things that you typically may give parents or teens to help encourage and support them as they become, more confident in themselves and they gain a better understanding of their own identity?
Sure. So this year, what I'll do is I'll definitely want to share my website, because I'm going to be creating more resources. Specifically, I do want to create a guide for parents to be able to use. Even, it might only be like a toolkit with at least starting off places for it. So my website is under my name, which is darahoffmanfox.com. And I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes so that they can see how to spell my name. But, there are quite a few therapists out there who specialize in working with kids and teens. And one of my colleagues, her name is Darlene Tando, and that's Tando. She just published a book last summer. And the entire title escapes me, but it's The Conscious Parent's Guide to, and has something to do with, your child and their gender identity or something like that. Okay. She also has a blog, and she's been on national TV shows talking about this. And so she is also an advocate for kids and for teens and for their parents. So she's been doing this for a long time before it became a thing that people were paying attention to. She's one of the best resources, I would say, right now to be able to turn to about this. And so through her blog, she offers other books and information that you can get. So my guess is that, especially this year, I think more and more therapists are going to start creating information specifically for this group. I think more and more parents who are parents of kids and teens who are transgender are continuing to create blogs and books and YouTube videos about this, and having there's a really good website. It's called The name of the website is Call Him Hunter. So there's a mom, and her transgender son's name is Hunter.
Okay.
And so it's callhimhunter.com. So she has a blog on there, but she also has a network of other, specifically moms who have transgender kids, transgender teens across the world. And you can connect with these moms. You can see if there's one in your area, because she has like a map with little pins on it.
Cool.
That's something that this particular mom that is doing. Her name is Roz, and she is really one of those parents who are putting herself out there because she knows how important it is to have that sort of information out there.
Yeah. Man, this is tons of great information out there. So again, I will definitely have all those resources in the show notes and have your website in the show notes. Are there any other ways that you would like the audience to know that they can get a hold of you or find out more information besides your website? Or is most of like all your blogging, I know is on your website? Is that the best way they can find out about you and your work and what you have?
That is pretty much the hub of where you can find it, but certainly, you can look if you go to YouTube and just type in my name, it'll bring up my YouTube channel, and also on Facebook, it's a different name. If you wanted to join the page that I created, it's Conversations with a Gender Therapist, and last time I checked, I have almost 17,000 followers. Is that right?
Wow.
Likes for that page. And so I post very frequently on that page, and then people share their comments and they show support to one another. So it's really turned into quite the community. So that's been really neat to see that grow. It was a little bit of a surprise for me when I remember the first time I was like, oh my gosh, we're almost at 500 y'all, let's do this. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, now I'm celebrating 10,000 likes.
Yeah.
But it definitely shows that there's a need out there for this kind of information. So yeah, the blog / the main website, and you can find my videos through there and the Facebook page there as well.
Awesome. Well, Dara, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing not only your expertise, but sharing also some other resources for parents, for teens that are listening as well. I just really appreciate you taking the time and for being an advocate for all, both the kids and for adults out there as they go through and discover more about who they are, and that it's okay to truly be who they are, where they are. I love it. So thank you again. Thank you, Nicole, and especially because you are really, the fact that you've even invited me on, and then you have people listening to this. This is one of my biggest goals, is to spread the awareness and spread the education. So you are, you've become a part of the team now to be able to help put that out there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again. Don't forget to go out to launchingyourdaughter.com and sign up for my newsletter / announcements about some local teen girls groups that I am starting, and then a future online event for moms. Thank you for listening to Launching Your Daughter with Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. For more information or to stay up to date, go to launchingyourdaughter.com. You can sign up for my email list or join my Facebook group. Thank you.